Hey guys, welcome to the 11th episode of Scary Reddit Stories, where I get scary stories from r/true scary stories and Reddit. Quick disclaimer, none of this content is meant to be offensive or stolen, so like, subscribe, and turn notifications on. Enjoy. This story was by u/lion_unlikely. When I was in 6th grade and 11 years old, me and my best friend, who is still my best friend many years later, had a crazy experience. We attended the biggest, enrollment wise, middle school in our state. Because of this, half of our classes were in portables. If you don't know what that is, it's basically a little single room trailer that you walk outside to get to and have your class. We had several around our school campus. Class had ended and it was lunchtime. My friend and I were the last to leave. Mrs. K, our teacher, was still sitting at her desk in the classroom, aka portable, grading papers. We walked back into the school, leisurely I'll admit, but as we live in a rainy state and it was indeed raining, we didn't go that slow. When we walked in the nearest door to the school, chatting about middle school things, we saw our teacher, the same one we left in the portable, exit out the teacher's lounge door. She walked out and turned the corner to the cafeteria. Me and my friend looked at each other like WTF. There were other doors to get into the school, of course, but that would mean a woman in her 50s 60s would have needed to literally sprint to the next nearest door, come in, and go into the teacher's lounge and then come out right in front of us. Potentially possible but very unlikely. She obviously didn't pass us on the path as nobody else was outside. Also, the path to the next nearest door was still in our visual. We certainly would have noticed someone else walking, let alone running. We were the only ones outside. Got goosebumps then and still do, writing about it. My friend and I still talk about it and how crazy it was. We joked around at the time that must be a witch cause we didn't like her all that much, but we still remember it the same way. At the time we thought it was creepy, but as we were kids we didn't dwell on it a lot. It definitely was not another teacher. It was the largest school, but only because our city hadn't kept up on the population. It didn't mean there were 100s of teachers there. Far from it. She was also wearing the same clothes. I still don't know what it is or how it happened, but yeah, unexplainable and creepy. This story was by u/Luke Top Secret. This happened to me when I was 11 and I was staying at a friend's house who I will call Kit. Kit was one of those cool kids in school who was always up to trouble. Looking back, I don't understand how I managed to remain friends with him for so long, as I was anything but cool and never did anything he did. One night I was staying over at his place on a Friday after school and we started playing touch footy in the backyard one-on-one. After playing for about 20 minutes he asks if I heard of a game called Mop, which I did not. He explained to me the way the game works is you hide by the road and when someone walks or drives past, shout the word mop hoping to get some kind of reaction. I suppose the game can be known by any other name, but in my case, he called it Mop. I agreed, so we went down to his front yard and looked up and down the road to see if anyone was heading our way. I should note that Kit's house isn't actually on a main road, so the only reason you would drive down past on the left is if you had a house further down or had to turn down an intersection street for more houses and about 20 house past Kit's bush, so I wasn't accepting many people to pass by. I hid behind the garbage bins which stand by the driveway fence and Kit was hiding on the opposite side in the garden. At this point it was about 4 PM, so it was still light out, which to me made the game sound less fun. About 2 minutes in, a car drives by and Kit shouts out Mop. Nothing happened, which was no surprise to I knew someone driving by wouldn't be able to hear us. Not long after, a man and woman were walking their dog, and as they were about to walk out of my sight, Kit shouts out Mop. The man and the woman stopped and looked around confused for about 5 seconds, then they started walking again. That was the exact reaction I was expecting. After about 10 more disappointing reactions I was starting to get bored, but Kit was just having too much fun. Eventually, I noticed a homeless looking man making his way over. Kit couldn't have seen him yet, so I gave him the signal that someone was near and he waited. As Manda was getting closer I could see that he was talking to himself like he was arguing with someone. As he got closer I could see that he was at least in his 40s. I could see how dirty he looked. He had long greasy black hair and his face was covered in dirt. I was starting to get nervous. When the man was going past my sight I heard Kit shout out something I was not expecting. He shouts dickhead. The man looked right towards the house in an instant, looking absolutely furious. I was freaking out as the man could have easily spotted me hiding behind the bins. The man started passing back and forth with his eyes fixed on the house, looking, muttering to himself. Eventually he started walking back the way he was heading, and once he was out of my view I got out from behind the bins and made my way over to Kit. I was about to open my mouth to tell him how stupid that was when he said let's follow him. I told him that was terrible idea, but as a stupid 11-year-old kid I agreed. We kept doing at a distance and followed the man off the road, and at the entrance to the bush, we hid behind a car and watched the man as he went into the bush. I wish I could say we headed back right then, but Kit wanted to see where he was going. So we followed. Kit went in first and I followed close behind. I was walking as quietly as possible, but the leaves were all dry, so they crunched really loudly as I walked over them. About 5 minutes into me following Kit, he stopped dead in his tracks and I heard him mutter to himself, "Oh fuck." I walked next to him and just ahead behind some rocks there was the man crouched looking right at us. I didn't have time to react as the man stood up and sprinted towards us shouting like a madman. Kit and I turned and ran screaming. I could just sense the man's presence is closing in on me and I was fearing that any second he would grab me and that would be the end of me. Lucky for me the man tripped and fell. I remember just feeling the air move under the man's body just inches behind me. I was easily an arm's reach of him. Hearing the man fall, I slowed down and looked back and saw him lying flat on his stomach and he let out an angry growl. I turned and continued running. I couldn't see Kit at the point, but I could hear the crunching of leaves and branches, so I knew he was close. Eventually I got out of the bush and started running on the road back to the house. When I got there, Kit was already there, out of breath, sweating. I started to cry due to fear that I could have been murdered. I never spoke of this story to anyone and Kit apparently hasn't either. I haven't been to Kit's house since. My deepest apologies to that man who my friend and I mistreated. This story was by u/ocean-voyager. This story is about my auntie, mum's sister, her partner and their daughter. They moved into their home in the early 90s. It was built back in the 1930s and had not had any major work done to it before they bought it. First plan of action for my auntie's partner was to knock down some of the walls on the ground floor to open it up and to fix all the ceilings in the bedrooms on the first floor. There was a leak in the roof which meant that all the ceilings were warped and bowed and marked with damp, so he ripped all of that off until it was just exposed rafters and then put new ceiling boards up. This meant that while this work was being done, the loft space was completely empty. Once all the work was done and they could make the house their own, they had a good few months of lovely new home vibes. But one night my auntie woke up in the middle of the night to the sound of someone closing the kitchen cupboard doors quite loudly. Not slamming them shut, but more like someone not bothering to take into account that everyone else was asleep. Her partner was asleep next to her, so she assumed it was my cousin pottering around down there. My cousin was around 15 at the time, so it didn't surprise my auntie that she wasn't exactly considerate when getting her late night snacks. She muttered a few words of annoyance and went back to sleep, the banging of doors continuing sporadically for the rest of the night. The next morning my auntie goes downstairs, quite tired from not sleeping too well because of the noise, to find my cousin eating her breakfast at the kitchen table. "I'm surprised you're up so early considering you were banging about the place all night," my auntie says to my cousin. "What do you mean?" says my cousin. "I didn't get up once last night. I slept right through." My auntie then gets this wave of panic. "Who was banging around last night? There's no sign of anything being out of place or disturbed, and all the perimeter doors and windows are locked and undamaged." After a bit of arguing between them about who was walking around, with no one owning up to it, my auntie comes to the conclusion that it must have been a particularly vivid dream and they go about their day. A few weeks pass and it happens again. My auntie is awoken in the middle of the night by the occasional sound of cupboard doors banging shut in the kitchen. So this time she gets up and goes downstairs to investigate. Nothing. No one is awake and nothing looks out of place. My auntie is getting seriously creeped out now. She tries to reason that maybe it's the neighbors and the sound is being carried through the house because it's always much quieter at night and easier to hear things. But this gets dismissed when my auntie's partner points out that they are semi-detached and the neighbor's kitchen is on the wrong side of the house for that to be the cause of the noise. The banging is definitely coming from below them in their kitchen rather than off to the other side of the house where the neighbor's kitchen would be. Anyway, this carries on for a good while. Every week or so there comes a night where one of them is woken by the sporadic banging. They go to investigate. Nothing. Back to bed and it starts again until morning. Now, a quick digression. My auntie sometimes goes to a medium. She goes to see if she can get messages from relatives who have passed on. Sometimes she gets told some spooky, accurate stuff. Other times it's way off the mark. Anyway, one time she goes to see one and this is deep during the period of when the banging is going on, but she doesn't mention any of this to the medium. She is always very careful to not say anything or give away any visual clues to whichever medium she is seeing because she wants to believe in all that and doesn't want that niggling doubt that she fed the medium answers. She's got a great poker face. The medium is talking to her about messages they're receiving. Stuff about her career, her partner, which turned out to be true. cheating dirtbag, and then the medium randomly starts talking about her house. How she's been there for a while now but there's someone in the house who is not happy. Someone who doesn't like what they have done to the layout. My auntie is confused. She assumes that the medium is talking about her partner or my cousin. But the medium continues. Check the loft. The medium says. There's something in the loft. Now this creeps out my auntie even more. She knows that nothing is in the loft. They've never gone up there since moving in because everything was put into the garage when they arrived so that her partner could redo the ceilings and they had never got round to moving all that stuff from the garage to the loft. Christmas decorations, etc. So, she goes home and tells her partner about how there's supposed to be something in the loft, but not about what she was told about him cheating on her one day. Self-fulfilling prophecy and all that. And he gets the ladder and goes up there. There's a period of quiet while he looks around with a torch and then holy shit. He comes back down the ladder clutching a piece of paper. I found this lying on one of the rafters, he says. It's a photograph. A black and white photograph of a woman in her 50s and she looks pissed in this photo. Very stern. It gives them all the creeps, especially when my auntie's partner insists that there was no way it could have been there where he found it as it would have been seen back when he was redoing all the ceilings. They cannot work it out so my auntie rings the old owner. They have a chat and my auntie describes the woman in the photo. The old owner is able to deduce that it's a picture of his mum. Turns out she died in that house back in the 80s and he inherited it and continued to live there until he sold it to my auntie's family. This now gives my auntie a serious case of the heebie-jeebies. She puts the phone down then says out loud that she's sorry if the new layout isn't to the old lady's liking but they just have to get on with it now. A few nights pass and there's no more noises, but then they are all awoken again by the most awful sound of pots and pans being thrown to the floor. They run downstairs but there's nothing to account for what caused the noise but my auntie describes it like no noise she's ever heard before or since. Just awful. She scans the kitchen counter. Where's the photo of the old woman she asks. Her partner tells her that he threw it away that morning. My auntie erupts. Get that photo out of the bin now. He dutifully retrieves it. She tries to smooth out the creases and apologizes out loud. The photo is put in one of the kitchen drawers and they go back to bed. After that my auntie would still get woken up every now and then by the sounds of cupboard doors banging but she never went to investigate. Just the old woman voicing her displeasure again. They moved out a couple of years ago and left a note to the new owner saying to leave the photo in the kitchen drawer. Thanks guys for watching. Bye.